Anyways, I guess we'll start here. We've got Rachel Vallarelli, uh, which I still pronounced it right, correct?
You got it.
Uh, Now, I happen to have recorded you and didn't realize that it was you until I just saw something that you played for the West Rock Warhogs, and then me and my wife were talking, and I was like, "Wait, that's right," because I remember we both afterwards were like, "I'm pretty sure that was a girl in goal," and yeah, then come to find out it was you.
Yep. Just look for the shortest person. Normally it's me. So 9 times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10, I would say. Definitely not the tallest, as one of my teammates has told me. So
Yeah. So how did you end up with the West Rock team?
I've known Otto for a while. And I run my own business doing camps, clinics, lessons, all that kind of stuff, R&B lacrosse. Um, and I'm also the girls director for 91 Tri-State. And just the way that the schedule ended up working out and me knowing Otto and all that kind of stuff, again, the lacrosse world's small, right? So uh, through happenstance and just location wise, with it being, the closest that I've ever played box lacrosse, with it being within 45 minutes of my house, um, it ended up all working out, which was great.
45 minutes. So which direction are you coming from?
I'm from Westchester County, New York. I'm
Uh,
in Hartsdale.
so you're even farther south. I'm the opposite way. I'm about 40 minutes north of Albany.
Nice.
So you obviously, I'm guessing, didn't start as a box goalie with your journey into lacrosse. I've kind of seen through some of your social media you coaching girls lacrosse. So I'm guessing that was your start.
Yeah, so I started playing in seventh grade. I really loved playing basketball, and that was my sport growing up. I wanted to play for UConn for Coach Gino Ariama, and I was a starting center for my AAU basketball team. And it got to a point where the 4 and 3/4 of an inch center, as scrappy as I was, I would grab the ball and kind of toss kids to the ground. It got to a point where everybody was just so much taller than me. It stopped working. And so basketball took a backseat. I wanted to play for Gino. I wanted to, get drafted first round, first pick to the New York Liberty in the WNBA. But, when you're 5'4 and 3/4 of an inch, it kind of stops somewhere. And I played softball growing up, and my dad thought I'd be a great baseball pitcher actually when I was younger. So he would we would drill in the driveway. It was like the funniest thing. Um, it built my mental toughness. I'll leave it at that. And he'll watch this, so he'll probably be very happy that I remembered that. And softball team at my school was an all girl school. I went to Holy Child in Rye, and there was just so many people going out for the team. And one of my family friends, he played lacrosse, and I'm very competitive, and I had no idea what it was. I was like, what is lacrosse? But I bet I can be better. I was like, my aunt's like, oh my god, you don't even know what it is. Sure, okay, great, here we go. And we embarked on this adventure. And seventh grade first practice, we we're setting up for line drills, or whatever you want to call them, right? And I can't catch and throw to save my life. I mean, it is pitiful. And this is back in the day when the sticks were like, it was plastic, not, it wasn't wood and leather, but um, it was like a tennis racket. And I could not catch and throw to save my life. And I thought I gave it a lot of time. It ended up being a very minimal amount of time. And I went up to my coaches and I was like, I can't catch and throw with this thing. Do you have something bigger? And they're like, you can be the goalie. And I was like, that sounds great. I was a soccer goalie. It's totally the same thing. And one of the coaches was like, it's different. And the other one was like hitting her, like, we have a victim, we have a volunteer, just let it go. And that's how it started. And the first game that I played in, I was not good at all. And there wasn't an eighth grade goalie, it was a seventh, eighth grade combo team. And my mom came up to me and was like, the other goalie is better. Maybe this sport isn't for you. She will deny that. She'll listen to this and be like, I never said that, honey. Deny, deny, deny. but it's the truth. And it's really hard, like when you first start playing as goalie, to they throw like everything and the kitchen sink at you. Stand here, do this, move your hands. I mean, or you get no instruction and it's just the complete opposite. But you're so young that your body's like, somebody is flinging something at my face, how do I respond to that? So eventually I you know I think I can say that I got a little bit better at it. I think it's safe to say that. So, um, but yeah, that was the start of the journey. Was really just my over competitive self being like, yeah, I can be better than him. Let me go play. He wasn't a goalie, by the way. He was an attacker. Um, but I was like, yeah, I can totally be better. My aunt's like, oh my god.
That's hilarious. And my favorite part of the story is when you said, you're trying to adjust to balls like, flying at you. And most people's reaction is to get out of the way. I mean, or try to get your stick
Yeah.
on it, but most people will either flinch or get out of the way. You actually see a ton of people turn around backwards, which is a terrible idea to take one like off your spine. But how do you I mean, did you naturally just have like a high pain tolerance? Like lacrosse goalies amaze me. Like, what made you think I should stand in the way of this hard rubber ball?
I think, it's interesting. The more like interviews and stuff that I do are reflecting back on, all the sports I played, and not even organized, but just things like, my dad, teaching me how to pitch, right? And he would pitch the balls back at me. We're not talking like a little granny toss. Like he was pitching them to the point that his shoulders, he's like, I think it dislocated. I got to take a seat. Like he was going all out. And the way I look at it is, I'm a goalie in field and I love to go over, even if it's, midway on my shin, as short as I am. So for some people, that's not a far distance. Um, and, I think about it, right, as, how I would move to, catch a ball that my dad was throwing at me, because he's like, nothing's going to be perfect. He would toss them everywhere. I mean, my hand would be so swollen because he's like, you got to hit it right in the glove. I'm going to hit it right in the glove. And he's like, he would tell me where to hold it and like everything. And my hand literally, it was throbbing. And he was like, suck it up. Right. And that maybe that sounds bad, but I look at a lot of my mental toughness from how I was, brought up, and how I was coached. And things of that nature. So I look at those kinds of things. So I think the hand eye stuff started that way. Um, and I could track it, but then when somebody would shoot a little bit differently, when it wasn't just overhand and I could read it the whole way, right, which is a little bit more kind of like somebody tossing a baseball at you, um, it would be a little bit harder. And then I kind of had to adjust. But yeah, it just, I don't, it's so odd to look back and see like all the things that add up and help you get where you're going, that like kind of seems so little at the time. I'm like, okay, when am I ever going to use somebody, throwing baseballs at me and stuff like that? And I'm like, oh no, wait, it actually makes complete sense. Um, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's always I like that 10,000 hour rule, and the only way to become a professional at anything, like you said. And it's funny how things translate, like catching a ball, especially for a goalie, really translates into the body positioning. Being a soccer goalie, a lot of people are going to say that has nothing to do with it, but just starting to learn the angles and learning like where you're in position and not, that translates so much more with defense and goalies than people will give it credit for. It necessarily won't translate to lacrosse because you got the bounce shot and all that to worry about. But it's definitely put your body in the right position, knowing the angles. How did you have any like drills that you did specifically for learning that as you go?
The bounce shots and stuff,
Well, more the
or
angle,
like, or
like
angles.
position, like learning how to put your body in the right spot. So even if they bounce it, your body is still, in that position.
I think a lot of it was trial and error because I had so many different kinds of coaches. I was lucky enough to have, and I phrase it this way, maybe not at the time, but I look back and I'll phrase it differently. I had people that were goalie coaches that were goalies and were knowledgeable. I had people that became goalie coaches because out of need, and they really learned the position and were trying their best even though they weren't goalies. And then I had some coaches as well that um, needed to become goalie coaches or claimed that they were and had no idea as to what was happening. But through all of that, it helped me be more creative and figure out what worked and what didn't. I had a goalie coach growing up. I had a few, and then one that I stuck with when I was in high school more, but they all kind of taught me things along the way. So I think it was really just kind of like drilling, okay, when like looking at landmarks was the big thing that I was taught. Um, and my coach was like, Rachel, just find landmarks, because at least back in the day when I played in, mid 2000s for club, it was grass fields in the middle of, some spot. And, you know, my coach was like, okay, use that tree and, that table, hopefully nobody moves it. And this is where you need to stand. And this is, what I would learn to call it was the goalie 45 of like, okay, if you're going to have 5 steps in your arc, okay, it's that second one off the pipe. Boom. When anybody's in that area, in that tree, where that tree is, okay, boom, that's where you want to stand. So I kind of learned it that way. And then as I became a coach, or I realized what coaches did for me that either worked or didn't, I would make notes. And if it wasn't physical ones, it was mental ones. And I would kind of come up with some things on my own, and be more creative. So I kind of, I guess through trial and error and that kind of stuff, figured it out. But I think, a lot of it too is just knowing yourself. Like I got to a point in my career, I think I can like specifically remember it my senior year in college, where you focus so much on film and doing all these things. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Film is great. And maybe this is just me and where I am, where I was mentally and things like that. But I would kind of get to a point where I'm like, that's great. They do this. That's awesome. And I'm like, but I know me and I know what I'm going to do. And I trust myself. And because they do this, I'm going to adjust this way. And then I would kind of close the book on that. And I'm like, I'm done. I feel confident. I'm ready to go. And then I would go and play. So it just kind of like you can adjust based on what other people do too. I think there's a lot of people that are so specifically like, okay, when the ball's in this area, you need to do this. And when it's here, it's this. And when, it's this, it's that. And I think just like in life, it's not just, black and white, there's shades of gray. So kind of just being able to adjust and roll with that too, which, you know, I look back and I'm like, hey, I'm grateful for not maybe having so many specific drills, but really just a kind of a few key points of like, hey, when the ball's over here, stand in this general area. And it was like little points like that and hearing things. And that was from a goalie, which was awesome. And then when I got to college, I worked with so many amazing coaches and at UMass. And I just, my freshman year, it was so hard. I came off of, being on the US U19 roster, and I couldn't see shots. Like I was seeing shots, obviously. I was like, hey, I was on the US team. Like, this is great. I feel ready. And not in like a cocky way, but like it gave me like a little like, stand up taller, nothing overly crazy. But I'm like, okay, I still have to, prove myself. And I was seeing the ball and I just couldn't get there. It was like it was like watching a horror movie as a goalie. Like you knew where it was going, you could see it, and you were just off every single time, and like nothing that you would change would work. Like me anyway. And I had the associate head coach and the assistant coach at the time were the ones that really were working with the goalies, to give the head coach more of like that oversee kind of stuff. And neither of them were goalies. One was Sarah Albrecht, midi for the U.S. team. She played at Northwestern, and the other one was Eileen Finn, and she played at Syracuse. And the two of them were great and amazing. And Eileen taught herself, taught herself how to be a goalie. And she ended up was like, hey, so if I'm learning how to do these things, I can help figure things out. And Albie would give the, this is what I see as a midfielder approach. And I never had people really do that for me of like, I see this, hey, this looks off, and having that, idea and principle. And they reached out to goalies and were like, okay, well, when this happened, like, how do we fix this? How do we make it better kind of thing? And that's why I always say, like, some people are like, they're not a goalie, I don't want to work with them. And I'm like, it could go the direction of it not being great, or it could go the direction of it being absolutely amazing. And I look back at my freshman year as like, you know, they put so much time and effort into making me better. I'm so grateful for that. Because those are like lessons and drills and things that I take, for whatever I'm doing. And they built so much mental toughness in me too. Um, it was unbelievable. So I don't know, that's more than angles, but it, it
It
was a good time.
Yeah, it answers a lot of it because you kind of touched on there too, being able to adapt, especially in lacrosse. The ability to reach your stick out from here to here is such a huge advantage. You know, in a lot of sports, you're throwing straight through your body or you're shooting straight in front of your body. Hockey goalies kind of deal with it with the stick, whereas lacrosse, you don't know. It could be coming from this angle, it could be coming from that angle, and that's where, like you said, knowing where you're supposed to be and being able to adapt is such a huge thing. And that's one thing. Like I know a lot of the guys with the NABLL who have made this PBLA. There's nothing that replaces getting shots. You know, there's nothing that replaces game experience. You playing as a goalie gives you an advantage over people who didn't. Not to say that you can't learn something, because obviously you can, but the perspective of it. So I mean, I'm assuming you play all over the place with box lacrosse, and how do you stay like how do you find enough places to play to stay busy to keep that rust knocked off?
Yeah. So, I think a lot of it is, the training off of the floor as well, right? So I look at, my strength program might be like the coaches that I lean on for that, right? And then I have in the past as well, really building that up for me to become stronger and better and more, balanced. In college, I like to give this example. It kind of shows also a little how hard headed I am, and maybe it's a goalie thing, I don't know, but I in college I could squat 325 for 8, and everyone's like, oh my God, that's crazy. Like some of the guys on the football team were like, damn, okay, right. And I couldn't go below parallel, which to me, I was like, but look at that number that I'm squatting, baby. Like I was so proud of myself. Like I called my college coach at one point and I told her, and she was like, there's a pause. And I was like, Coach, are you still there? And she's like, whatever gets you across that line, I'll see you in a week. Right. And she's referring to the fitness test, like whatever could assist me with running. And I went to go train a few years after, right after I stopped being a D1 college coach. And that's this amazing facility where, this guy trains the New York Rangers and everything. And he was like, well, he was asking me numbers like, okay, how much? I was like, he's like, okay, going over these things. And I was like, hey, I play professionally. I squat this. And he goes, that's amazing. Right. And obviously he's thinking something in his head that's not what I'm thinking. This is, one of those typical, like, pictures in the head is different, comes together, and it's like, oh dear. And we do a workout and he sees me and he was like, what in the what? And I was like, I could squat this, I could do all these things. And he's like, at what level? Below parallel? I was like, oh no, like a box squat. And he literally, the look on his face, I thought he was gonna cry. He was like, no, you're gonna go below parallel. And I just remember we would do these 10-second descents on my squats. And I'm telling you, I've never been so sore in my life. I mean, college workouts were hard. We did 3 a days at one point. And I just remember, I'm like, this was the hardest thing I ever did. And it had no weight. And I was like, why is this hard? And he was like, mobility is, you're very flexible, but he's like, you got to be mobile and you're very strong, but you have to use that mobility and you have to be able to go below parallel. So I look at like, strength and stuff a little bit differently now than I did, when I was in college. And also, things evolve with the times too. And, so there's that segment of it. And then I think, as well, there's that mental performance part. And I have a mental performance coach and he's awesome. And so just kind of going through things with him when I can't, maybe get those reps, or, maybe it wouldn't benefit me to get the kind of reps that they are, right? Those kinds of things. And a lot of it is that mental training. Are you, mentally prepared and ready and feel focused and in the zone and stuff like that? And, what do you do when things don't go your way? Right. So having all of that, those two segments of it. And then, nutrition is huge, and what I eat and how I take care of my body and recovery and stuff like that. And then going off of the original question that you had, so you probably didn't expect it to take like 5,000 legs and trot off like a spider. But for me, I've realized my car is like my best friend at this point. I'm always in my little Jeep, and driving around to wherever. I was drafted into the Arena Lacrosse League. This was years ago, and so I would drive up to Toronto. They're like, "You could fly." I'm like, "No, not with the gear. No, not handling that." I'm like, I know when I get in the car, I'm like every 2.5 hours, I'm stopping to get gas and whatever. And I'm like, I have my little routine. And I'm like, we're on our way. And it would make sense. And like to me, I don't know. Like it's like, okay, I'm in the car, it's a long trip, I'm playing box, here we go, and I can get mentally ready. Um, so that was a thing for a little bit. I think when I came back from coaching, D1 lacrosse, which was where the box stuff kind of started with me playing. The assistant coach at the time was like, Rachel would be a good box goalie. Let's get her gear and have some of the girls shoot on her because it's going to make them better. And we had a Canadian on the team at the time. And she was like, oh, yeah, like, let's do that. That's great. And I remember playing, and I left that job and I came back home, and I still wanted to play. I was like, I had an itch. I was like, no, this is like hockey. I always wanted to play. My mom was like, I want a daughter with teeth. My aunt then told me a few years ago, it's like, no, it wasn't that. Your mother just didn't want to wake up earlier than she needed to get you to the rink. Again, I will be slaughtered, not actually. No one needs to worry for that comment. But anyway, it comes from love. It's interesting to like see how everything unfolds. And so for me, box is like the closest thing to hockey. So I'm like, let's go. I want to do that. And I Googled box lacrosse leagues. And the first thing that came up, or the second thing, was the Boston Box League. Boston Box Lacrosse League is like the BBLL up in Hingham, Massachusetts. And so I reached out, and Chuck Jaffe got back to me and was like, yeah, we have US U20 tryouts come up. And I was like, I'm 25, right? And he was like, I don't care. Doesn't matter. You get the opportunity to work with Ginny Capuccioni. And I was like, oh my God, right? And they're like, come up, train, and then we can kind of go from there. So my gear literally came in the day before from Canada, and I put it on. My aunt was like, oh my God, you look like the Michelin tire man. Like the dogs were like trying to bite it. It was, and we had like little poodles, and it was the funniest thing. And so I tossed it all in the car, drive up, and I go, and it was an amazing experience. And Jenny gave me some words of wisdom, and she's awesome. She was the first woman to play in the NLL. So I, by any means, like I know some people have made comments that I try to go and say I was the first. I'm not. Maybe the first in the PBLA, which I think is amazing. It's still great. And I still a handful of women that have ever played in a men's professional capacity and signed a contract, but by no means am I the first, and I wouldn't want to take that away from her. And she's given me a lot. So, I'm rewatching the Michael Jordan documentary, and Kobe's on there, and he's like, "There's no me without him." And I think I look at that, and I'm like, "There's no me without her, and her blazing that trail before me." So I'm really grateful for that, and to be able to work with her was amazing. But after that, Chuck was like, "Yeah, you can hang with the guys. Let's get you into the Boston Box League." And that was back in 2017, 2018. And I've been driving up to Hingham, Massachusetts on Tuesdays ever since, for either 8, 9, or 10 p.m. games, and getting back at either 1, 2, or 3 o'clock in the morning. And the guys are funny. They're like, "Are you staying overnight?" I was like, "No, I'm driving. Like I'll be driving into Wednesday." And they're like, "I don't understand." And everybody's like, "She's driving home." Like but for me, it's like I want to play at the highest level that I can for as long as I can. And whether it was the IBLA, now defunct, right? Looking at the B3L league as well, that's not running this year, but it ran for 2 years last year and stuff like that. And just looking at all the opportunities, even, ULAX in the city. I'll play for the Dead Rabbits, and, any opportunity that I can get to go and play, it's like, there are some people that kind of look at it like, oh, it's a girl, like it's a chick, it's this, it's that, or some people think it's a really short dude. And then I'm like, hi. And they're like, wait, never mind. Um, and my thing is like, don't judge a book by its cover kind of a deal. But, I'm really grateful for the people that were like, yeah, let's give her a chance and have her play and, didn't really care. And I think, I had an opportunity to, well, I was asked to asked, invited, however you want to word it, whatever word in the English dictionary. Um, I was brought in for the NLL US Elite Combine a few years ago, and that was a really amazing experience. And then after that, it was, invite only tryouts for the New York Riptide, which was really cool. And, I remember talking to Reggie Thorpe about that, and Reggie was like, I was like, is it going to be, I don't want it to cause any issues with the guys, right? And he was like, I don't care if you're, how you identify with the if you're blue, orange. He's like, I don't care. If you can stop the ball, the job's yours. That's great, right? And I think that like having that where I know before I said that things are more than black and white and there's areas of gray, but I think what I like so much about being a goalie is like it's you get to back your team, you're that last line of defense, but it also in a way is kind of like a individual sport because you can make it a game with yourself to be a little like sprinkles of selfish and be better, but it still impacts the team in a positive way if you really want it to. And just I don't know, that to me kind of is more like black and white in that sense. But this is the long answer to your question, but it's like have lacrosse will travel, and I just go where the opportunity is, and I just book at the time. Google Calendar is my best friend, to make sure that I get where I need to go and do what I need to do and stuff like that. But um, even what some people would say are maybe not the world's best reps, or, it's maybe, more field lacrosse players than people that are box experienced. It's still, you never know what kind of shot you're going to see in a game. And you just being ready at all times and being able to see all those different kinds of shots, to me, I still see a benefit to that, and interacting with some really amazing people that are in the box lacrosse community. I think the lacrosse community as a whole, but there's something different with the box community for sure. So I travel all over, even with the combines and stuff, or not the combines, but training camp the past few weekends. I it's crazy. I like, Coach Marty Bose was like, oh, so you're driving home, Rachel, like safe drive. It's like 3.5, 4 hours for you to get back from, from where we were. And I was like, yeah, no, I'll eat, I'll take a nap, and then I'll wake up, I'll have a coffee, and I'll go play in Jersey. And he was like, what do you mean you're playing in New Jersey? I was like, oh, I have a doubleheader with the boys tonight. I can't not go. And he was like, you're playing again? I go, same thing next weekend, coach. And I was like, and he's like, and then Tuesday you're in Boston. I was like, yep. So I go where the lacrosse is, and I have so much fun, and I think that's like the most important thing too. It's like if you're not having fun, then why are you doing it? And I have so much fun with not just the process, but just being able to play the game too, and with so many amazing people, I feel really blessed. So
Yeah, box lacrosse definitely is a different style community. Everybody's so close. It is such a friendly. Let's hang out. Let's. Yeah, it's a different. It really is a different atmosphere. Did want to touch on you talking about being the goalie, and that's a little more black and white. And even more than that, one of the things that really amazes me with goalies is you have to be able to let in a goal or two that you know is your fault and still bounce back, and the mental toughness of that, or even just coming in cold. So like when you come in of a game, and if you didn't expect to play or you weren't playing, you don't even get warm up shots, and now it's like, oh, here we go, and it's full speed. That's the you talked about the mental coach there. That's all stuff that a lot of people don't think about, but it is so huge for box lacrosse players, but especially goalies. Just getting yourself in the right frame of mind. What do you? You said you had a coach for that. What do you do for exercises, or what do they? How does that work?
A lot of it, it's just kind of like talking through stuff with him. My even before him, my goalie coach in high school that I had, she was like, keep a game day journal. I remember I signed my NLI to go and play at UMass, and she gave me a game day journal, and she's like, I want you to use this for your 4 years in college. And so I would write stuff down, and I was very like habitual, and I had my routines, and some people could call them more like superstitions and stuff like that. But I would have my little routine, and I would do my thing, and I was very regimented. Like, we would go from UMass to play UConn, for example, and I would know when we would hit the Dunkin' Donuts. We were 8 minutes away from the field. I would hit play on this specific song. I would do this, and this, because I was like, I know I need to be ready. um, I go back to like having different kinds of coaches while I was growing up, and stuff like that. It's, I look at box kind of as like almost like that, get off the bus is late, you're waiting for somebody in middle school or high school for your game, or, the refs are early, or there's a problem with the lights at the field that you're going to, and all of a sudden the game time has to change and you don't get a warm up, and it's like tough, deal with it, right? And so at first, because I was so regimented, I'd freak out in field when I was younger. And I just kind of got to a spot where I'm like, yeah, whatever. Right. College was different, obviously, because, for the most part, we would kind of go in and, it was what it was. There was a few times that it changed, but because I went through that stuff already, it gave me the confidence to be like, I'm okay. So I kind of had everything, maybe even the kitchen sink, not actually, but, as the saying goes, tossed at me. So I felt ready for that, and that's something that, I think my mental performance coach, Sean, his big thing is like, you're ready for whatever it is. You've seen it, you've done it, you've experienced it, whatever it may be. Like, just, and you just got to get it done. And, something that he told me a few weeks ago that I thought was really cool, and that I impart, on not just goalies, but anybody that I work with or coach or mentor, really, as he told me the other day, he was like, you don't have to feel your best to play your best. And at first I was like, wait, what? And then I was like, oh, no, that actually makes sense. And, I just kind of look at it and I'm like, no, it makes a ton of sense. And I just kind of let it all go. But for box, it kind of like, looking at all those things I went through and whatever, I was like, okay, it is what it is, and I think the drives up to Boston and stuff like that, would I love to be able to hang out with the boys and, take my time and, in the locker room and that kind of stuff. But, the reality too is the drives up to Boston, when I first started doing them, I would have 5 minutes before the game to toss all my stuff on. And it just was what it was. I was like, okay, here we go. Boop, 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 out on the floor. Here we go. And Chuck's like, you good, Rach? And I was like, I'm good. Don't worry about it. Right. And I would just go play and warm up as we go. So a lot of it, you kind of have to work yourself into it being mental, and just realizing like you've done all of these things, you gotta, if you have a limited amount of time, and I tell this to all my goalies, is like, if you only have a little window to warm up, what are the absolute things that you have to do? Keep that to like maybe, within 5 minutes of what you have to do to get ready to play. And then if you have more time, obviously it can be a bigger warm up and stuff like that, or whatever you need to get ready. But I just kind of realized with all the different leagues and things, whether it's playing in New York City and trying to find a parking spot in Queens, and it being 10 minutes before you play, and I'm like running with my stuff, the bag that like has me tilted like this, and I'm like trotting, I'm like, I'm gonna make it. And it's like, okay, you have 2 minutes and everybody's on the floor waiting for you, and you're like, I'm good, guys, here we go, and you waddle up and then you just play. So it just kind of taught me like mentally you have to almost have that warm up happening without you physically going through it, in person. So that's kind of, as weird as that sounds, that's kind of the spot that I've put myself in, is like, you just always have to be ready for your opportunity. That's why like, I was always taught like, don't take your gear off. Doesn't matter if, you're the starting goalie and there's 5 minutes left in the game, your helmet doesn't come off. Like, I was always, brought up that way. Like, you walk off you're on the field, you compete, you do all these things, the game's over, you act super polite, you're shaking people's hands, you're saying thank you, right? Manners kind of come back into play a little bit, those kinds of things. But even with box, it's like, yep, I have all my gear on, my uppers are still on, my helmet might be popped up just because, for the helmet to be completely on, it might just be a little bit much. I don't want to overheat in there. It's like a little hot box. But other than that, I'm like, I'm ready to go. If somebody's like, oh, Rachel, go. And I'm like, all right, time to go. Waddle, waddle, waddle. And I'm ready. So I just kind of put myself in that spot.
I love the waddle, waddle, waddle. That's an awesome because you kind of do it every time you say it, so that is pretty amusing. The Now with you have played all over the place in all kinds of leagues, like you said, you put yourself in there, and it kind of mentally prepares you for it. What did you find not so much the most surprising, but what was different about playing with this PBLA and what they were going for through the training camps and stuff compared to some of the other leagues you played in?
Yeah, I think I've been blessed with a lot of opportunities, whether it was, the Arena Lacrosse League up in Canada and being the first woman drafted into that, going to NLL camps and combines and stuff like that. And then, with the PBLA, I think it was really cool. It kind of meshed it all together, all the experiences. And I would even add women's, playing professional in women's field lacrosse as well. It was like, just kind of adding all those experiences together. It's a startup league. And we really want it to succeed and grow and have the opportunity for it to be there, years down the line. So I think the really cool thing is it's a lot of, people, sorry, there's like dust and things flying around in here. I'm like trying to grab it. Maybe like Karate Kid too. I got to grab the
Get some
chopsticks
chop, yeah.
to grab it. I think that was a fly. Um, but it was kind of like all that stuff kind of put together, and everyone's really grateful, especially on the Chatterheads, like, to have that experience and to be able to play and to sign. For some people it might be a first professional contractor, for other people it might be another one. And for me it's my first men's box contract, really. And so it's kind of seeing all of that. It's a really cool experience, and I think the amazing thing is being a part of it to help it grow is a really cool experience, and something really special. But I think it's competitive. I watched the game last night. It looked really awesome. And I think just seeing even the smaller gear and stuff like that, not like I need to be any smaller in there, but I looking at all those kinds of things to make it a little different, but the same thing, that if somebody's watching it and looking at it, people know, hey, that's box cross. But having its own little flair to it, I think is really cool and amazing. And um, it's it's another experience. And I think for me, I'm just happy to be able to have the opportunity to keep playing. And I know that maybe sounds so simple and weird, but um, and there's a lot of other emotions in it too. But you know, my story's kind of been, I guess, to quote, the Grateful Dead, it's been a long, strange trip in terms of a lot of things. And I haven't had the world's greatest year. This past year, my grandmother passed, who was my best friend. I quit my job where not myself. And, this opportunity came around, and I was like, everything happens for a reason. And I was like, finally, something good. Um, and I don't know, I just kind of look at all that, and I'm, grateful for the process and where I've been and things like that, and stuff like that. So, for me, it's really, really special. And, I think it's cool being the first, woman that signed and is on a roster. But, I think, the work isn't done. And, whether it's just for me, I want to get as much, time as I can and the opportunity. But I am, at the same time, I guess maybe what you would say is like akin to a kid in Disney World. Like I am really just happy to be there. But at the same exact time, once I step on the floor, like, you know, I'm going all out. So I don't know, that was a little bit of a long-winded answer, but that's yeah.
No, that's you're all good. It's yeah, nobody watches these to hear what I have to say. Nobody. Oh, It's no, they love it because it's what everybody wants to hear is what you guys are talking about. So, have you worn the smaller goalie pads? Because, like you were saying, that is smaller. But one thing that does help you is they're 4.3 nets instead of 4.9. So, you're getting a little boost. And I also I had to laugh earlier when you say it. Anybody under 5'9", 5'10" is always 3/4, half an inch. Like I'm this height with 3/4, and I'm this height with. I only know that because I'm a short guy myself. So yeah, 5'8", 3/4. We got it. Yeah. What do you think of
So,
the new pad
well, so
set?
I know I like it. I started off having legs. So when I first started playing, I had McKinney bottoms, which are the same size that I wore when I first started playing, and then I had a size 16 shins because when I called a store in Ontario and I told them how short I was, the guy goes, "I'm sorry, is this gear for you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "And how old are you?" And I was like, "I'm in my 20s." He's like, "Oh, so you're an adult?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, 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 yes, I am." And so they sent me 16-inch shins and a large in the uppers. And this was Bodum uppers, Bodum legs, and McKinney pants, right? And the league is using McKinney. And so I go and I'm trying to throw in these giant uppers. And I'm like, I kind of got used to it. And going back, we'll rewind to, when I first interacted with Ginny. She's like, "Have you ever put this gear on before?" And I go, "No, it came yesterday." And she goes, Are you joking?" I was like, "Nope, completely serious." And so she grabs her water bottle and she's squirting it all over the uppers. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Breaking it in for you." And then I put it on, and the uppers, I kid you not, it was like I was a kid in a Christmas story. Couldn't put my arms up, down, sideways, didn't matter. I
Just
was
got
like,
the.
"What?" Yeah, literally. And so she grabs the gear and she shoved it up my arm. And I was like, "What are you doing?" Because it was literally past my fingertips, the uppers. And so she just grabs a roll of duct tape and she's duct taping it around. And I was like, my hands were like little sausages. After that, I literally couldn't move. It was it was quite an experience, but we did what we needed to do to get the gear to fit. And before I when I got the invite to the NLL US Elite Combine, Bodum got in touch with me. I got in touch with Bodum, and they did custom cut uppers for me, which was amazing. And so I sent all the measurements, and he was like, "You're in 16-inch shins." And I was like, "Yeah, why?" And he's like, "Women have longer shins. You need 18s." And he was like, "Nobody's accounting for the fact that you're a woman. We're going to get you bigger pants." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I had 18-inch legs, XL pants, more waddling, and custom cut uppers that actually fit my arms. I was like, "Wait, so I don't have to duct tape my arms?" And he goes, "Oh God, I don't want you doing that. Please, no." He's like, "You're going to lose circulation. What if you get hit in the hand?" And I was like, "Oh, I already have." And he's like, "And what happened?" I was like, "My finger was kind of twisted an interesting way." And he goes, "Did you feel it?" And I go, "Well, when I unduct taped my wrists, I did. Yeah." Um, that was pretty funny. It was my first year playing IBLA, and one of the guys who I'm now playing in the New England Shatterheads with, he handed me a beer, one of the post game beers, and he goes, "Here you go. This will help." And so he like popped it into my hand, and I held it, and that was the ice. Um, but that happened in warm ups, and then I had to play a game. It was very interesting. Anyway, back to the gear, and so I have the uppers are a little big from McKinney. We got a solution that for this season, but I feel better in the smaller gear. To be honest, it's not Dallas Elliott size, which I think all the goalies at first were like, "Oh God, is it going to be the little gear that Dallas wore?" And part of me was like, "Okay, let's go." Like I'm okay with that. And it was a little bit bigger than that, and so everyone was pretty happy. But I feel good in the smaller stuff. I think it's, you know, I don't know. The way I kind of look at it, like I've always been a little bit deceptive with how I've played, whether it's field or box. And somebody said to me when I was playing in New Jersey with more dudes, one of the guys on the other team was like, "You just give me so much room." And he was like, "But why do you always save it?" And I was like, "I don't know." I'm like, "It's my job." And he was like, "Yeah, I guess, but like I see so much." And I was like, "I'm sorry. I don't know what you want me to say." And I kind of realized I was like, maybe that's like my little superpower. I'm not giant, obviously, but I move a little bit easier. So I do like the gear. I think it's pretty cool. Again, it's that element of like you see it, it's box lacrosse, right? From a fan perspective, which is super important for that fan experience. Sorry, sport management major over here. So, that kind of stuff's popping out, right? So it's relatable. Everybody knows what it is, but at the same time, it's a little bit of a different product to kind of stand out. So I think it's cool.
Yeah, I think it's cool, and like you said, some of the smaller goalies you included, you're used to moving like that, so it's not as big of a change for you as it is for the guys that played just the position. But no, I laugh because I was a hockey player, so when you talk about that, the smaller goalies, they give you all this room to shoot, and they're baiting you. So you give up this section because I know my left arm's faster. Or I give up this side because I know I can kick. Yeah, it's I love to see it. I can't wait to see how all these play out. I wish they were streaming more of the games. Hopefully, we'll get some more streamed here pretty soon. But what are you most, I guess, excited for as this goes forward? I mean, we talked earlier. You aren't making it out to the game today, so obviously, I would assume that's priority one. But like, what are you most, I guess, expecting from this season?
You know, I think, again, with it being a startup, I think I have expectations that the games are, the quality on the floor is going to be great, all those kinds of things, right? But, I think that the biggest thing that I learned, I was lucky enough to be a part of the UWLX, RIP. It is no longer in existence, but the UWLX was the first women's pro league. And I think what I learned from that experience was to expect the unexpected, right? A lot of people, when they come into things, they say, oh, it's pro, it's going to be all of these things, right? And I think a lot of that is, it's being touched on, right? Having that pro experience, but for me, again, it's just like I look back at that, like, all right, expect the unexpected. Like things might not go the way that you want them to, and every league, every team, professional, not whatever it is, had to start somewhere, right? So I look at that; it's another experience to play, and people put forth the capital and the opportunity for some people to have another chance at playing pro, for some people to extend their professional lacrosse careers. For some people, it opens up the door for them where, not a lot of American players. And I can say this, as an American goalie, trying to go and play in Canada, whether it's, the Can-Am League or Senior A or Senior B, right? It's like those spots are really reserved for NLL goalies. So to be able to get into, the National Lacrosse League, especially as a woman, right? But as, really more of an American, that people would say, oh, she's really great, but she needs more reps. That was always the thing. Is well, she hasn't played against Canadians. She needs these reps. Okay, I was all right, drafted into the ALL, played up there, right? And then, I was, one of the last cut, and, one of the goalies is now on, like, he was younger. They're like, well, his NL, he's going to get drafted next year. So we went with him, right? All those kinds of things play in. And they're like, hey, go get this experience here. And I'm like, wait, but if that's reserved for the NLL goalies, then how am I supposed to get that experience? And I'm not trying to be like, an a-hole or anything like that by saying it, but I'm like very businesslike, like, hey, how does that work for myself, or maybe not just for me, but for, other people trying to break through? And they're like, well, that's really interesting. And so I look at that and I'm like, okay, that's the kind of stuff that this league is trying to fix. Sorry for the noise. I'm in the garage, so the pipes are down here.
No, you're
If it
good.
popped through with the mic, but
No, you're good. Like you were saying though, one of the big things for this league is, and you kind of touched on it there with the, so 90%, 7% of the NLL players are now Canadian, and it's not even so much by like design, like they're sitting there going, haha, you American players, but it's because those are the guys they're comfortable with. They've played with them. It's where the culture was born. They put the Canadian youth lacrosse and parents have put in so much time and effort. That's why they are. And I think you really touched on it with the PBLA is really offering more than anything is giving us Americans and you a chance to get the reps, get the attention you deserve, and show that there has been people that have been putting in the work and driving all over. And now it's time to kind of grow the game.
Yeah. And I think in a stable environment as well, it's like I don't mind driving everywhere. I think it freaks my mom out a little bit, to be honest, but you know, I don't mind it. I just consider it all a new adventure. But for me, I'm like, hey, I can call this team my home just like I can, with the West Rock Warhogs, right? And all those kinds of things. And it's like, okay, these are the teams I play for, right? Dead Rabbits, more dudes, boom, okay, I'm playing for these teams. Women's, I'm playing for New York Athletic Club, which is essentially the first professional women's team, which is awesome. And it's the oldest lacrosse team, notably in the United States, which is actually really, really cool. So that's an honor to play for that club. But looking at all that, and it's like, it's having more of that avenue of, being able to play and getting those quality reps that, and you said it too, right? Like, hey, I'm a coach, right? It's like, you like what you like, and, you want to bring in people that, and sometimes that leaves some people out. Right. And I've been behind that, and that, I've been a product of that, and that is not the world's greatest feeling, right? When you're left out because, somebody knows somebody, or, what have you. Um, and it just kind of is what it is. But you brought it up too. It's it is the culture in Canada, right? Their box lacrosse is really their shtick. It's their thing. And in the U.S. we're still trying to figure out. I'll call it, again, my business expertise, if, whatever you want to call it, right? Sport management major from UMass, and then I'm going for my master's at Manhattanville. But um, we have a branding problem with box lacrosse in the U.S. It's like some people are still calling it indoor. Prominent people are still calling it indoor, and that's not a slap at anybody. It's just it's a branding problem, right? We have to fix that. World Lacrosse, I was on the working group board, whatever you want to call it, group of amazing people working to build women's box lacrosse, not just nationally, but internationally. And it was a really cool experience. And, all the Canadians on the call are like, everyone knows what box is. And I was like, take a step back. You're in Canada. Of course they do. But in the US, we still have people, on Long Island in a perfectly usable roller rink with sport court flooring, and where I would go and play actual box lacrosse, and you have high school, you have club teams playing each other, going 12v12 with a no bounce ball, sticking field goalies in a box goal with field goalie gear, and they're coming off the floor saying, coach, it's so great to see you, I'm playing box just like you are. And I'm like, I'm happy you're on the floor. That's great. This isn't box. And they were confused because everybody is branding box because it's this hot topic, it's this big thing. But there are not as many people as I would like. I think that's the way to phrase it, that are really using and saying, hey, we're doing box lacrosse. It is real box lacrosse. And we're growing it not just for for boys, but also for girls as well, or making it known that the opportunity is there for girls to be able to play. I also coach with Otto for what we call 91 Warhogs. So I work for 91 Tri-State. I'm the girls director, and then he runs Warhogs. So we came together, and I coach with him for our like junior teams, right? So our little guys. And one of the goalies actually is a girl, and she wanted to play. Otto was like, yeah, one of my coaches is Rachel. She's like, I want to play. And and I think that kind of stuff is so cool. And and he was like, you're doing that, and but just even seeing it grow like that, he's like, we're doing it in a rink, we're practicing here, or if we can't get rink space, he's explaining why it's important that we need to get it, but we don't have it. And those kinds of things, because it is hard to come by in certain areas, right? So just kind of explaining and laying the land down. But I think the big thing is like having knowledgeable coaches, knowledgeable officials, players that whether it's youth or older, are really buying into what box is, and stuff like that, and being able to really grow the game. And I think so, if you want to call it a branding problem, or, that's my business, sense and stuff like that, my business hat on. But I think that's something that has to change. And you look at Canada, and it's like, they know what box is, they know what field is, right? And that's that. right? Or outdoor, however they want to phrase it. But the reality is like, yeah, the better players, right, or what are perceived as the better players are going to be the ones that play, because that's how you put a better product on the floor. That's how it works, right? You want to gain viewership, you know, you want to, make your money back on investments, whatever it is, right? That's how it's going to go. So if you have mostly, Canadian coaches, and they're like, if they're the ones that are in, Can-Am, Senior A, Senior B, they're getting that experience. They're the ones that are up at camps, right? They're the ones that are constantly there, and that's the names that are circulating. Those are the ones that are going to be, picked up, and that's just kind of how, it shakes out, I guess. So looking at like even personal brand too. It's like, how do you be memorable, right? Not in your face, but memorable enough that people know who you are. Um, and the way I like to look at it for myself is, not just like, hey, I'm a good lacrosse player, or, hopefully people think more than good, but um, is really being more memorable in a sense of like who I am as a person and what I bring to the table that way. And some could call that a level of professionalism, or what have you. But I think that that's the kind of stuff that you look at all those aspects, and, you know, all the athletes, whether it is the NLL or the PBLA, right? Just really promoting box lacrosse, and, really pushing it so that lacrosse as a whole can become more mainstream and really be there, and be more accessible for everybody. Um, because there are some spots and things where lacrosse isn't for everybody, whether it's, because you're, a certain gender, or because of, um, financials, whatever it may be, that really don't allow, you know, it puts a barrier to entry, right? I'm really using those sport management terms here. My professors would be proud of me. Um, right. But it's like, you look at all of those things, and it can make lacrosse a hard sport to stick, you know. So we have to do whatever we can, marketing wise, whether it's each individual player or stuff like that, to push it so that it grows, right? And not just like for the league to succeed, because that obviously that's super important too, right? We want it to, so that we all have opportunities. But I just think, if you're in it for the right reasons and you want to grow the game, like it's so important to, to honor that and really be able to push it. Because I mean, it's a great game, and it's, I think it's done so much for me, and I'm so grateful. So um, that's, I don't know, that was really long winded, but
It's all good. No, I think you're 100% right. I think it'll be a shame if the league doesn't find a way to get the videos out of these games, because after watching how exciting that game was, I think, like you said, the biggest barrier I think into the sport is the cost of equipment and stuff. I mean, Lax and I is now even hosting the women's championships exhibition game, where the that was an awesome game. I tell you what, that was, we filmed it all, and the loudest the stadium was the entire tournament was at that women's championship game. It was something to see. And some of those girls, it was the first time they got to play, and it was a really cool experience for them, because they kind of got stuck on a team with a bunch of Canadian girls who came down and taught them how to play. And those young women, I tell you what, the smiles on their face afterwards, it's a contagious sport. Unfortunately, I have to get running, but thank you very much for your time. And if you wouldn't
of
mind
course.
shouting out your handles and stuff, and your coaching, because you do photography, coaching, you are everywhere.
Yeah, so I do. So, short, funny story. So after I signed, I kept resharing and screenshotting every single thing. When someone was like, "Yay, congrats, breaking barriers," or like, "Go Rachel, go," whatever it might be, I screenshotted every single thing and put it on my story. And I think Instagram thought I was a bot. So my personal Instagram, which is my handle for pretty much everything, and is like my personal slash business account ish, is Rabslack26, and that's really my big thing. That one. So in the meantime, right now, my Instagrams are RV_lacrosse. That's my business one for lacrosse purposes, which, don't judge me for how minimal the amount of followers are on there. Again, my Rabslax 26 one was like really my thing. I put everything on, and I try to keep things simple. And then I have RV_photo, and then it has a little underscore again at the end. Um, and that's for my photography and media stuff. People are like, keep it separate. Now I know why. So, but yeah, I'm on uh, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can connect with me there too. Business Savvy. What else do we got? I feel like I'm missing things. Let's check real fast. As sad as this is, I don't even know. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm on Pinterest too. I got to post more on that. Snapchat, you can connect with me there if you wish. Some people Snapchat me and say, "Hey, you free for a lesson?" I kid you not. I am on TikTok. I gotta boost the quality of my my posts there as well. I've been told by my younger goalie clients, they're like, "Coach, you got to do a TikTok dance." I'm like, "Have you seen me? I am uncoordinated and fall off curbs, people. No,
I don't know. That goalie waddle could be a
coordinated and
hell of a TikTok dance.
you know what? I actually kind of realized that I am flossing in goal sometimes when I kind of like get myself all ready and I'm like, wait, I'm pretty sure the young people would call this flossing. I'm a few years late for that though, because that's not really a thing anymore. But I know it was a thing, so there we go. I'm not all that old. I'm on Twitch, and I that's pretty much it. But people can connect with me. Anywhere. I'm totally open to all that kind of stuff. And then my website that has everything on it is rvlacrosse.com. And then my link tree with literally everything with links for the PBLA, West Rock Warhogs, um, 91, all the clinics and all that kind of stuff that I run, all the social media stuff. If you're like, oh my God, she just rattled off so many things, my link tree is in my social media profiles, and that is also Ravslax26, RAVSLAX, digit two, and then the digit six. And that has everything that I'm involved with in there. Um, so you can just hit that up. Anybody can hit that up anytime,
I
and that
will.
has everything.
I'll
So
make sure I put links in the description of the YouTube video when it comes out. That's yeah. We'll make sure we get it all. Again, thank you very much for your time, and hopefully I get to meet you one of these days. And I'm gonna try to get out to a couple of the games. And yeah, it's funny too because like I said, I'm only an hour north of Albany, so hopefully, I was talking to Justin. We're hopefully gonna be able to set up so we stream all the Warhawks games. And hopefully that whole
yes, let's go.
that's right. So there we go. So I appreciate the time. Thank you very much, and wish you nothing but the best. And can't wait to see you out there.
Thank you so much.
All right, have a good day.